Hi guys, Scarface Firstlook here with another one of these live streams basically at 8 p.m. Monday. This is I think the fourth one if I'm correct. Today I'm joined by guests Ben, Spurs fans Ben and Jude. So firstly Ben, how are you doing?
I'm great, Harry. How are you? And how's everyone in the chat?
I'm, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, we're all good. How are you, Jude?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Good to have you both on. Before we get into today's video like live if you like. I'm delighted to announce our new partnership with Security VPN, which is the premier choice for secure and private internet browsing. With the rise of online threats and surveillance, it's become more important than ever to protect your online identity and data. Their VPN service ensures that you have to surf the internet without having to worry about prices. At Security VPN, they're committed to providing you with the highest level of security and privacy. Their VPN service is designed to protect your online activities from hackers, cybercriminals, and government surveillance. With their VPN, you can browse the internet, access your favorite websites, and stream your favorite shows without any restrictions. And also use the code SCARFY at checkout to get 25% off your first month. So massive shout out to Security VPN. I'm very glad to have them as my partners. And also, I'd like to announce that you can listen to it now after on Spotify as well. So for people who don't like to, who prefer to listen than watch, you now got that option. So let's crack into it, shall we? But actually, before we do, let's do the usual. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and leave a like if you like it. As I said, if you're listening after on Spotify, don't forget to give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. So let's crack into it. Match reaction against Chelsea. So shall we start with both your initial thoughts a day after that win, starting with you, Jude? How do you feel a day after beating Chelsea? What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just thought the team played exceptionally well again under Stellini. I think it was a better performance than West Ham in sense of they never looked like they could score. I think against West Ham they had a few glimmers of hope, but I think defensively we were like probably the best I've seen all season yesterday, and I think going forward, I think especially in transition, I think our transition from defence to attack was very good yesterday, and I think like the passion and the will to play for each other has come back a bit now. So I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah, you make good points. Ben, do you agree with what Jude has to say? And what are your thoughts a day
Yeah,
after that win?
yeah, I completely agree with everything. I just think it's such a relief to finally beat Chelsea after such a long time. It felt like if we didn't win that yesterday, we were never going to beat them. I mean, it was just such a relief. And then the scenes in the stadium, I don't know if you were there, Jude, but me and my dad were there. The scenes in the stadium in the South Stand after singing that brilliant Chelsea Get Battered Everywhere They Go song was just something amazing to witness. It really was a great day. And what a goal for Ollie Skip.
Yeah, I was in the middle of that chant. I was right in the middle of it. Um,
Oh, I was
I
Fantastic.
quite near
I, I
it, to be
was
fair.
I, I was sat in the south and went mental when Skippy scored, and then was in the middle of the whole
Yeah.
Chelsea get bad. So it's great.
So many
Fantastic. I
people
think,
missed the goal.
I know it's crazy. Like the whole of the east side was like
so
completely
quick.
there. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
19 seconds.
completely agree with you both. I think it's fair to say that wins against Chelsea are rare for us, and I think that was our best opportunity to beat them, and we took advantage of that. Fantastic. And Stellini took charge of his fourth game this season, 100% win record, 4 out of 4. After Conte still remains in Italy after a post-operation, after his recent gallbladder surgery. I think Stellini did say, though, that he is expected back at some point this week. So I want to get both of your thoughts, starting with you, Ben. Do you think, Conte coming back is a good thing or a bad thing? Because some people have said that it is, potentially a bad thing.
It should be a good thing, but with Spurs, you just never really know what's going to happen. To be honest,
Yeah.
I get people saying, "Oh, they're disappointed that Conte's coming back," but it shouldn't. It might do. It shouldn't really make a difference when all the ideas are still coming from Conte. But I can see why people might say that when it looks like such a coincidence. But who knows? We'll have to see.
Yeah, thank you, Ben and Jude. What are your thoughts on that? Conte coming back. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Because some people are saying it's a bad thing.
I don't know. Well, first of all, sorry about that. I had to just turn my camera off quickly.
No problem.
And I agree with Ben in a way. It shouldn't really matter, but I feel like there is clearly something not working with Conte that is working with Stellini. And I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not sure whether it is a negative if Conte comes back before Milan, because I think Milan's probably, like, at the moment, a massive game. Well, it's a massive game anyway, but we need to obviously win by 2 goals, and I just think I'm not exactly sure what is wrong with Conte being there that Stellini's not, but I just don't know whether it is a negative or a positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you both of you. We're certainly getting to, because some people are saying, including myself, is Stellini potentially the man? Some are saying until the end of the season, stick with Stellini. Because can't see Conte signing that new contract. Some are even saying long term. It is being discussed. That is always, I think, a possibility. But we will get into that. But Jude, I want to know your thoughts on the team news before the game. Obviously, we go into it unchanged from that 2-0 win over West Ham, keeping a clean sheet as well. It was unchanged, seeing Richarlison start, seeing Skip start again, Davis left wing back. So I want to know your honest thoughts on the team news before the game. So I think it's quite a positive reaction generally from the fans for the team news. But I want to know your thoughts.
I did think Perisic would start. I thought he only was getting rested against West Ham because we played a lot of games. We had obviously quite a few games, and it was just in quick succession. But I was a bit surprised when I saw Davis with Longley at centre half, but I wasn't against it. I was happy that Skip started. I thought he was brilliant against West Ham, and he was like brilliant against Chelsea yesterday as well. And I was happy Richarlison started. I don't think Son should be starting yet. He's been awful all season starting, and he comes off the bench against Leicester, scores a hat-trick, and comes off the bench against West Ham and scores a goal. So I think we just need to leave him on the bench for now, keep Richarlison, try and get him some game time, get him some confidence. And yeah, I thought it was a good, positive lineup.
Thank you, Jude. And Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was a bit surprised Perisic didn't come back in as well. But I wonder, did they just think it was a case of if it's not broke, don't fix? If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? When it works,
Yeah.
I think there'll obviously be changes in midweek with the Sheffield game. I think we will see quite a few changes because you can't get just the same 11 players playing all the time, or they will get injured, particularly with then having Wolves and then having Milan on the Tuesday. So there's going to be some changes, I think, in midweek, but it wouldn't surprise me if the team against Wolves at the weekend is fairly similar to yesterday.
Yeah, thank you again, both of you. I personally was happy with the team news, being announced an hour before. I was happy to see Davies starting left wing back, knowing that Reece James coming back into that Chelsea side, which is speculated all week that he'd come back, which he did. I think we're always going to be vulnerable down that side. I was glad to see Richarlison start. I don't think he was great, if I'm honest, against West Ham, but I always want to see him, so I'm glad he started again. And generally, which we'll get onto as well with Skip, we get more onto individual performances later. Again, I thought, when he stepped in from Bentancur this season now, I think he's done very, very well. But I want to know, firstly, you, Jude, I want to know who your player of the match was.
100% Skip. Like, every single tackle won was brilliant with the ball at his feet. Got himself out of trouble. Well, obviously scored his goal, and a cracking goal it was. And yeah, I think he just dominated the midfield. Didn't shy away from anything, and obviously how young he is as well. He just looked like he had bags of experience. So skip.
Thank you. Ben, you were nodding. Do you agree with Jude?
Ollie, skip. Ollie, skip. Ollie, skip. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a performance from him. I felt so happy for him. You could see on the replay the grin on his face when that goal went in. I mean, it was every Spurs fan's dream. You think he's a Spurs fan as a kid, and that's a dream moment to score in a derby. But let alone the goal he scored, he was unbelievable all match. I think Chelsea paid 120 million for Enzo Fernandez. Well, you could have had a pretty good guess that was Skip that they paid all that money for based off yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. For me, it's definitely Skip for me. I think he edges
Not
it
Hove,
over
yeah?
Romero. I thought Romero. Well, you know how much I like Pierre. I thought he was good, but Skip was the one that, for me, really stepped up yesterday. Obviously, getting his goal, first goal in Spurs shirt, fantastic for him. And was I think we outclassed and dominated them in midfield. You don't need to spend 120 million on Enzo Fernandez. So for Levy, he's going to be sitting there grinning. Both players who scored for us yesterday, and Skip and Kane, both came through the youth academy and both
True.
cost nothing. I think there's something. It's always a good feeling when you beat the small mid-table club with both scorers costing absolutely nothing, and you're playing against a team of signings of 600 million. So I don't know about you, but I think that's a good feeling. But I want to know, moving on, your thoughts on Richarlison's performance, because as I said earlier, I don't think you may disagree, but I didn't think he had the best of games against West Ham. But obviously, I don't think he's personally been playing in a different position. Obviously, I want to know your thoughts as well. But what were your thoughts on Richarlison's performance in that win?
Jude, do you want to go
Start
first?
with you, Jude.
Oh,
Jude.
sorry.
My bad.
Lagged.
No, I didn't say.
I think it was a bit poor against West Ham and against Chelsea. I think he just needs to find a bit of confidence. I think he's a bit afraid to take on his man. He's a bit afraid to have some shots, to do the risky passes. But the confidence will come, definitely. He's a brilliant player. We've seen that from his time at Everton and his brief spell here. So yeah, he just needs to find some confidence. But I don't think he played particularly well against Chelsea or West Ham.
Fair enough. Ben, your thoughts on Richarlison's performance yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he was better yesterday than against West Ham. I think it's a difficult one because I would say in the first half he was particularly poor, but that pass he made in the second half to get it to Kulusevski I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I did feel, as much as he may not have been brilliant on the ball, he did run his absolute socks off, which I do think made a difference. I don't know if you picked up on it, Jude, but I was there, and in the first half, I was pretty much in line with sort of the left wing back and Richarlison, and he made an awful lot of runs where he was about to be played through, and then Longley just turned around and passed it back. So I did feel slightly sorry for him because he was getting a lot of his runs in behind refused, and then I think you could see he was getting a bit frustrated, and then he was kind of feeding off scraps. So I don't think it was brilliant, but I also felt he didn't have the best service to him at times.
Yeah, I would agree. I did pick up on that as well. A lot of the time, as you said, like Longley or Dyer would just turn around or play it off to Davis or skip in the midfield. So yeah, I do agree.
Thank you both. Question for you: would you like to see Richarlison play in a different position? Obviously, he plays, number 9 for Brazil. Obviously, he's got loads of talented players around him to supply him. Perhaps we don't have that many or of the quality at Tottenham, some would say. But there's been talk. Myself would like to see it. Him, playing in the number 9 role, Kane dropping in behind him. So Ben, I want to know, would you want to see Richarlison in a different position, or is he in the right position and just needs more time?
It's a difficult one because I feel like we bought him with the idea that he can play in any position across the front three. But I would say from what we've seen so far that it looks like that's maybe not so much the case. So I would say his number 9 is definitely his ideal position, which you could argue he'll get the best out of him there. But I do think we can see a lot more from him in the positions he has played in. Do I think that's going to happen where he'll be there and Harry will be as number 10? I don't think it will happen. Unless Conte in a big game played a 3-5-2 with Harry in the midfield. But I don't see that happening personally.
Yeah, thank you. I personally can't see it happening. So now, Jude, would you like to see Richarlison played in a different position, and can you see it happening under Conte?
I completely agree. Um, I would like to see him play in um, in a more central role. I think we should play a 4-2-3-1 with Kane as the cam, and then
Yeah,
obviously Kulusevski, Son on the wing, and then Richarlison up top. But I don't see it happening because I don't think Conte will go to a back four. He just doesn't. He just doesn't do that, and I think he needs to take risks sometimes. But as I said, Conte won't change anything like that. But yeah.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Harry.
I
What I
personally,
will say, I think the only time I could see it happening, and I don't think Harry will drop in as number 10. The only time I can see it happening is if we're really chasing a game, and it'd be more of a 4-2-4 with Harry and Richarlison, but Harry sort of does come in side for Richarlison over the top. So I don't think it would happen like as a starting point, but I can see it happening late on chasing a game when he takes a defender off, say.
yeah, there's a possibility. Yeah, I definitely like that idea. So thank you both again. I want to know. But it wouldn't be London Derby, a game between Tottenham and Chelsea, without a bit of drama, would it? And it wouldn't be Tottenham without a bit of drama either. So Ziyech, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think was initially shown. Oh, it took forever, didn't it? But initially shown a red card by the referee, but then overturned his own decision. I think after being told by VAR to go and look at it, suggesting that it should be overturned. It was a big mess. Fans at the stadium. I wasn't there, but fans at the stadium must be so confusing. I think you both went,
Yep.
if I'm correct. So I want to know, one, did you think that he should have been sent off watching that back? And two, what was it like being there as a fan? Starting with you, Ben.
We just had no idea what was going on, to be honest. I think, Harry, I don't know if you knew more because you could listen to what they were saying, but in the stadium, we had absolutely no idea what was going on and couldn't even really tell who was being booked right until Ziyech was
No,
out wide and given the red. But I just didn't get I know they've given some explanation to it, but I think I'm not sure on the validity of it. It sounds like a bit of an excuse that he had to make a decision for them to then change it, is what I've heard. But surely he could have given a yellow card and then changed it to a red. So I feel that's a little bit of a cop out of an excuse. Should he have been sent off? Yes, in my opinion, because I think the foul where Richarlison fell over should have been a yellow, and then he hit Emerson in the face. I'd
yeah,
argue that's still yellow.
yeah, I agree with you, Ben. And to be honest, you watch it on TV, the commentators didn't have a clue who was being booked,
Right.
what was happening. To be honest, I don't even think the referee knew what he was doing. Over the whole game, which we will get into his performance. He just, I think, concentration, but I think the occasion got to him. I actually thought he refereed the game well to start with, but I just think he lost control come the end where I think he was counting down on his watch until the end. I think he'd literally lost the plot, if I may say so. So, Jude, I want to know, the big question: do you think he should have been sent off? And like I asked Ben, what was it like being there? And how much information did you know?
Well, as Ben said, we literally knew nothing. It just came up on the screen saying VAR. Didn't say what for. It literally just said VAR. And as Ben said as well, there was obviously because all the players were together. We had no idea what had happened. And obviously, Richarlison got fouled by Ziyech, which was a booking in itself. The referee got his card out to book him, and then the tempers flared, and he then hit Emerson in the face. So even then, if it's not a straight red card, that's two bookings then and there. So yeah, I saw that as well. Like that's two bookings then and there, and either way, it's a red card. So I'm not exactly sure what the referee was doing there, as maybe he just didn't know what was going on, or as Ben said, he got advised to give a red card and then to overturn it, but I don't know.
Yeah, thank you both. And for me, it's a clear red card. I don't think how more obvious you needed to get to that. They tried to find excuses, wasn't deliberate, took a deflection, the punch. But at the end of the day, we've seen it with Casemiro, who done the same thing, but then gave the player a hug that still got sent off. I mean, I don't think, you can't not mean a punch. I mean, where else is he aiming it? Do you know what I mean? I think they try to come up with excuses, and sometimes, you've just got to admit.
I do think he was quite lucky though. He caught Emerson on the shoulder before he got to his face. So if he had hit him straight in the face, then I'm sure it would have been a straight red. But the fact that he hit his shoulder and then went through to his face, I think that maybe was his saving grace a little bit.
I think the fouls are yellows itself. What do you think, Ben?
To be honest, for me, at the end of the day, he's gone to hit him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, his intention is to hit him, which should be violent conduct in itself.
Absolutely, you would have thought so. Shout out to Elias in the comments. He's left a couple of comments now, and I think that leads on perfectly to talk about Stuart Atwell's performance yesterday. I mean, did you think he had? Firstly, did you think he had control of the game? Starting with you, Jude, did he have control of the game?
Nowhere near. There were so many times in that game where he was just so incompetent, and fouls that were clear fouls that you could see from the stands weren't given. One moment in the game, there was a clash of heads, and we had possession basically on their corner flag. So the medical team had to come on because there was a head injury, and we comfortably had the ball. No, and we would have kept the ball where there was a man to pass to, and the referee Stuart Atwell picked up the ball and gave it to Kepa when it was Chelsea's player that needed treatment. That was possibly the craziest thing I've ever seen. The fact that we had comfortably had possession, and he picked up the ball and gave it to Kepa. And also the fact that he went to the toilet mid-game, that was a bit questionable. And I just think that he just completely lost control of all of the game. As you said, Harry, a minute ago, maybe the occasion got to him or whatever, but he was possibly the worst referee I have seen at Spurs ever.
Ben, did he have control of the game, Stuart? Well, do you agree with what Jude said?
Do pigs fly? No. No. That moment where he ran down the tunnel, being against Chelsea as well, gave me memories, flashbacks to Dyer against Chelsea in that cup final where he literally went for a number 2 in the tunnel. I mean, it was just bizarre. It summed up his performance with all the decisions, really. Because obviously, I heard that he was apparently doing something with his shirt. But again, the fans had no idea what was happening because he just legged it off the pitch. It was just bizarre. It was as bizarre as all his decisions. I feel like I don't think he helped himself with confusion that... I mean, I'm not criticising it, but he was clearly wanting to let the game flow and trying to stay consistent in terms of he was letting a lot of stuff that were fouls go. But I think in the end, I'm not saying I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I don't think it necessarily helped him in the end in terms of having control of the game when he eventually did give things where a lot of things we could have claimed, well, you would have given that the other way around to Chelsea, but didn't give it to us. And also another thing I noticed, I don't know if you did, Jude, Ben Chilwell, it really got on my nerves. 4 or 5 times I counted off the ball, he pushed one of our players to stop them getting back quickly. And there was nothing done about it at all.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And I don't know if you could hear it, but in the south there was a bit of angst about that. Especially the one, I think it was Emerson, and he was trying to sprint back, and it was on the halfway line, and he literally just
grabbed it.
2 hands in the back.
I know.
Pushed him
it's
over.
ridiculous. But I don't know why the linesman couldn't tell him. They're all in communication with each other. I don't know why they didn't just point it out, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting. And Ben, I want to know, being a big game, London derby between Tottenham and Chelsea, in this kind of game, would you rather before the game started, the approach from the referee to be let as many things go as possible. Don't give too many cards, or do you want the referee to be really strict? Give lots of free kicks, lots of yellow cards, and set that kind of standard, or do you like to let things go in the London derbies? What your thoughts on that? What do you prefer as a fan?
I prefer things to be let go, but I feel like there's a limit, and I feel like he was a bit over it at times. I'm all for letting the game go, but I feel there were quite a few things, and for both teams, that I thought, cool, that was a foul, and that should have been a free kick. But at the end of the day, we won, so I don't really care. But for future, I still would like that, but I feel it was a bit too lenient.
Yeah. Do you also like things to be let go in a big game like this, or you one through like the cards to be out in a big game like this?
I do, but as Ben said, there's a line, and when it crosses that line, it gets to the point where it gets out of hand, and then what happened with the Holder Ziyech situation, that's what happens. And if it's continuous fouls that are clear fouls that aren't given, that's when it gets a bit weird, and it's just they're obvious fouls that aren't given, and that's just
Yeah, and like we touched on earlier, in being in the stadium, I think a lack of communication with the fans, not knowing what's going on. I mean, do you both think, do you think it's an issue, and do you think it's something that needs to be changed, like VAR now, and the referees association, blah blah blah, whatsoever, that needs to be their number one priority? Making sure that communication is better, the players, the fans know. Jude, is that really important, and is that something that needs to be changed?
100%. Like on TV, you know exactly what's going on. You have replays, and I think it should be the exact same in the stadium. There's 4 massive screens, and I don't see why you can't put on them what's going on. Like all it says is VAR in progress for whatever it is. But in situations like that, you have no idea what's happened. They're all a big bunch of players, and from the stands, you cannot see what's happened. So there needs to be replays, because there was just confusion upon confusion, and everybody around me was just going, "What's going on? What's going on?" And nobody knew, and it was just mad.
Yeah, exactly. And before I get your thoughts on it, Ben, I'd just like to say, for me, yeah, that's why I brought the question up. I think it's got to be, their number one priority, making that communication clear, because watching it on TV, it's clear the fans didn't know what's happening, the players didn't know what happening, even the referee, looked clueless to, I think he lost the plot, as we said. But the fans should be able to know, when you pay to go to a stadium, right, it's a lot to go, but especially our new stadium, right, it's a lot, right? And the minimum for me, you've got to know what's happening, you've got to know these things, whether you should be, perhaps you should be able to listen to the conversation. Perhaps it should be shown on the screen what's happening in Stockley Park. But I think for me personally, something that has to be their number one priority, and something has to change. So Ben, based on the conversation me and Jude have had, I want to know your thoughts on that. Should that be their number one priority?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not even like it'd be that difficult a thing to do. You think how much money the Premier League brings in, just to have communications for the 10 games a week. It's really not going to be, it would be the 10 games a week, because it'd be the fans in the stadium. I was thinking of just the TV games, but yeah, for the games that, not just for the big stadiums like Spurs, but even Bournemouth, which I know is not a very heavily sort of infrastructure-wise isn't the most developed stadium, it still wouldn't be that hard just to have the stadium announcer, even if it was the stadium announcer that had like access to the conversations, they would be able to relay it to the crowd. So it's really not something that should take much time, money, or effort to do. I feel the referees are just almost wanting to sort of hide behind their decisions.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more, and I think that it's certainly an issue. Certainly for me, I think so. But moving on, I want to know next. This is a question that got raised after that performance. Maybe bold. I'm going to put it straight out there, starting with you, Jude. Is Romero the best centre back in the Premier League? Context behind the question. another clean sheet for us. I think Romero, the main, part of that, main heart of our defence, is a leader. He leads by example. For me, he's surpassed. I think looking at the centre backs in the Premier League, I think he's up there. I think he's as good as, if not better, as the Martinez, the Saliba. So I want to know right now, Jude, do you think Romero is the best centre back in the Premier League?
I don't think he's at the moment. I think he can be, but at the moment, I think he's far too reckless, and I think he's far too just out of control with his tackles. I mean, against Chelsea and West Ham, it looked like he's calmed it down a little bit, but in the previous games, he was, as I said, far too reckless. And I think he's better than Saliba, Gabriel, Martinez, but I do think Thiago Silva is the best in the Premier League at the moment. I think he's been, obviously, just don't think about Chelsea's results. But I think he's, especially last season, he was different gravy last season, and I think at the age that he's at, I think he's shown why, in my opinion, he's the best in the Premier League. But I think, as I said, Romero can get there, but he's not at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. How far would you say he's off from being the best centre-back in the Premier League? Where would you rank him right now?
Third. I just think he needs a couple more seasons or maybe this season. He needs the end of this season just to stop getting so many yellow cards and stop being so reckless and smarter with his tackles, and then I think he'll be there.
Thank you, Jude. Yeah, you make some good points. Before I come to you, Ben, I just want to say, if you watch me or listen on to me on Parkland Podcast, co-host every Saturday, something we bring up, me and Luke in particular, is about Romero, how we both think that he isn't, quite as good as he was last season. Last season, we think he really stepped up, like when Van Dijk is prime at Liverpool. So, I think that he's good, but I think reckless, that's a part of his game. So, Ben, coming to you, I want to know, is he the best centre-back in the Premier League? And if he's not, how far off is he?
I don't feel he is at the moment, but I feel on his day he can be. Like against Chelsea yesterday, I think if that Romero was playing every week, I would have said yes. But I agree with what Jude said. And my only criticism of him, other than the odd reckless tackle, is he's not the best in the air, which I'm not sure is. It's nothing he can do in terms of height. Obviously, you could argue for example, the AC Milan game. I think he should have done better in the air against Hernandez in situations like that. But is he the best? No, I'd say same as Jude. I'd say third. Or if you've got Van Dijk on form, I'd say fourth, because I think Thiago Silva and Varane are ahead of him. In my opinion, Varane, it might be unpopular, but in my opinion, Varane's the best centre-back in the Premier League. And I've thought that since he's come into Man United.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably, agree with you both. I think Romero is certainly up there. Not number one for me. For me, I'm probably ranking him about second or third, definitely behind Thiago Silva. And along, like you say, Ben, I think along with Varane, I don't think he's that far off. But Ben, is the recklessness a part of his game that you kind of fear about? Is it, is it a bad thing? And does he need to change that?
I feel he can. I think the problem is if you took all his aggressiveness out of him, he wouldn't be anywhere near as good. So I feel that's what's so good about him is his aggressive nature. My only problem is there are some times where he'll go into a tackle, he's never going to win the ball. Like, I don't know if you two remember, but it was made a big thing when we signed him. Like that Richarlison one last season. He's never getting the ball. I mean, it's hilarious, but he's never, ever going to get the ball. And it's that sort of tackle that gets on my nerves. I feel partly, though, if he had two top centre-backs next to him, they would really sort of complement him and help him with the decision-making of when to go and when to not go.
Yeah, thank you both. Something I want to touch on, is Fraser Forster. Big talking point still is, but especially after Lloris, with that big injury for a long period of time. I don't think he had the best, stepping in there against Leicester. Don't think that was his best game. I think you'd probably both agree on that. But I want to know your thoughts on his last couple of performances. 2 clean sheets for him in the back line now, West Ham and Chelsea. So I want to know what are your thoughts, in both those games. Starting with you, Ben. Has Fraser Forster got better, or has the opposition not tested him as much? Would you say?
I'd say it's probably just the defence in front of him has been better, if I'm honest. I'm not sure as much he could have done about many of the Leicester goals, and AC Milan, he did brilliantly to make the 2 saves he did for that goal. To be honest, the only thing I'd say with Forster is it's just nice not to be having a heart attack when your goalkeeper's on the ball, which you feel like you're always having when Lloris is getting the ball. You always worry he's going to slip or he's going to do something with it. Whereas with Forster, I don't know about you, Jude, but I feel a little bit more relaxed with him on the ball
Yeah,
than Lloris. Not
100%.
that Forster's brilliant at kicking, but he's better than Lloris, who doesn't really like he can kick the ball.
Yeah, Lloris has never been great with the ball at his feet, and I don't think he ever will be. But as you said, Forster is I feel a lot more comfortable and not as tense when Forster has the ball. And
He used both feet.
yeah, definitely. And what you're saying about how the defence in front of him, I think against Leicester there was no Romero, so I think that was a big reason that he had so many shots against him. And also I think Porro, it was his debut, chucked him into the deep end. And I don't think that really helped, but that was a while ago now, so we don't talk about that.
Thank you both. I probably agree with you. To be fair, I feel more comfortable, with Fraser Forster and goal with Fraser Forster on the ball, to be honest with you. Like, you both said, Lloris, you always worry. I think he has that mistake in him, that extra touch, whether it is, worries me. I don't know about you, in his box, he's taking the extra touch. You've got the striker charging him down. Oh, honestly, the amount of times he gives me a heart attack. But yeah, Fraser Forster recently, I feel comfortable with, and I think he's doing a good job. There's been critics. I think he has stepped up. But moving on, I want to know, this is a question. You both made it clear that you think Conte coming back isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's worth asking the question, is Stellini the man? Because it has been questioned. Would you like to see Stellini in charge till the end of the season, or do you just want our manager back? Starting with you, Jude.
Well, it's a difficult one because Conte is the manager and he knows what he's doing, but at the same time, Stellini's clearly got something, as I said earlier. He's clearly got something that's making him want to work and play for the gaffer at the time. So I would say yes until the end of the season. But then I would say get Pochettino back in the summer.
Fair enough, But Jude, would you say this is just a coincidence, or would you say it's more than a coincidence? That some may say Conte has a negative effect on the players, but under Stellini, he's been in charge 4 games a season, going back to Champions League group stage against Marseille. 100% win record, won all 4, and quite comfortably as well. I would say in the end in all 4. Would you say it's a coincidence that Conte comes back and we lose 2 games, then he goes and we continue to win under Stellini? Is that coincidence, or is it more than a coincidence? Is there more to it?
I think it's got to be more. It's the same group of players. It's not like they're not fit enough, because we know that they're not fit. We know that they're fit enough from the pre-season where they were making them do lengths of the pitch. Like, we know that they're obviously fit enough to play football. I think it's just the manager, and I think it is. I don't think it is a coincidence. I think there's, as I said, there's clearly something that Stellini has that Conte hasn't, that brings the team together more to fight for each other and to fight for the manager at the time.
Thank you. Ben, coming to you now. First question, the bold question, is Stellini the man? And do you agree with Jude, or do you think it's just a coincidence that Conte's come back and we've lost 2 games?
I personally think it's a coincidence because I know, Harry, you'll say, oh, you always back Conte. I would say with Leicester, Romero wasn't there. and AC Milan is probably the toughest opponent we've faced since the World Cup. And I think that was I know you could argue, oh, we lost to Aston Villa and other games, but that's, in my opinion, I think it is a coincidence of not having Romero for Leicester, which makes our backline no better than Bournemouth, really. And then AC Milan just being the best team we've faced.
I would disagree with AC Milan being the best team because I still think Man City, even though their form isn't the best at the
True. I
moment,
forgot about that.
I still think Man City are the best team in Europe at the moment, and the quality that they have, even though they didn't play De Bruyne, I still think their depth and quality is still up there. Not up there, is the best in Europe. So I would have to disagree with that.
Yeah, I forgot about City. I'll give you that, to be fair. I'll be honest, with the City game, I think if De Bruyne had played the whole game, I think we would have lost. Because I've personally, in my opinion, feel he's the only... I know it's a bit off topic, Harry, but it's about City. But in my opinion, I think De Bruyne is the only one that can pick the passes that for the runs that Haaland makes, that City has. And it was very telling when he came on. Almost every time he got the ball, bang, smashed it into the box with pace, and someone was nearly onto it. So I felt if De Bruyne had played the whole game, I think we potentially would have lost that. But obviously, you can never say that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I can't disagree with either of you. There you go. Give myself in the background there. Hopefully Ben can get his.
Oh, Ben.
He'll be back in a minute. I've removed him while he sorts out that issue. Yeah, so I don't know if either of you saw, Jude. I put a tweet out yesterday saying Lini is the man. I come to that conclusion. We've beaten City, we've beaten West Ham, beaten Chelsea now, beat Marseille in the group under Stellini. For me, I would like to see. I'm not one of those people who wants to see necessarily Stellini in the long term, but I would like to see Stellini to the end of the season. I think Conte's had a difficult year, and I think I think it's best for him stepping away and sitting back. Ben should be back any second now. Hello. Ben, we were just kind of saying, I put a tweet out yesterday, got I think nearly 200 likes saying Stellini is the man. I think personally I'd like to see him until the end of this. I'm like Stellini till the end of the season. But I want to know, starting with you first, Ben. In the summer, who do you want to see? Assuming Conte doesn't sign a new contract, who do you want to see as the next manager of Tottenham?
Well, before this stuff with Chelsea, I would have said Potter, but I don't know. I would say Pochettino, but to be fair, I've always fancied Thomas Tuchel in terms of how we've been buying wing backs to fit that system for the past few windows. It's going to feel like such a disorganised thing if we've gone from literally spending 45 million on Porro in January to then having a manager that may or may not want him. Or the same with Perisic, or not with Perisic because obviously he's only got a year left, but with like Udogie, for example, who was signed as a wing back with Conte in mind. So I feel Tuchel would fit that better, but do I think Pochettino is a better fit in terms of a project with Spurs? Yes, but to be honest, I can't see. Unless Levy and Enoch start spending a lot more money, I don't think much will change. We'll have a bounce for a few months, and then it'll all be rubbish again.
Fair enough. Put it how it is. Fair enough. Make some good points. Jude, next manager of Tottenham. Who do you want to be? Ben's mentioned Pochettino. He's mentioned Tuchel. Mentioned Potter. Who do you want it to be?
Well, I would, as Ben said, I would have said Potter before the whole Chelsea and how poor he's been at Chelsea. But I think Pochettino, I said it earlier, he's always been, though, I don't know why we sacked him in the first place, to be fair. He's always been proper Spurs. He loves the club. He has amazing passion for it. Like, he's even got a barbecue engraved in, like, Spurs in it. Like, he just loves the club, and I think he's the right manager for us, as you said, with like a project. And I just think he is the one for us.
Fair enough. Thank you both. Yeah, and again, I can't disagree. I think you saw, I don't know about you, Jude, but before coming on here, I went briefly, my first ever live on TikTok. I was joined by Gunner King, Arsenal fan, who I have a lot of banter with. Ben, I'm sure you're aware, on TikTok and Twitter. Literally, I'm talking daily, and we go back and find things that each other has said about each other and about each other's clubs. So, yeah, we enjoy that. My life wouldn't be the same as you. We really enjoy that. But even he said, all jokes aside, Pochettino, he thinks that will be the best, for Tottenham. He thinks that that's our best chance of being, successful. So, fair enough. Hearing, it's interesting hearing from an Arsenal fan. I probably would have said Potter, before all this business at Chelsea. No chance now. I don't think I want another ex-Chelsea manager as much as I like Tuchel. Another name I will throw in there is Thomas Frank. I can't see it happening, but I really like Thomas Frank of Brentford. But we are, if that's okay, we are going to move on and focus on, you mentioned briefly, one of you mentioned Daniel Levy. And if you don't know anybody who's listening after, who's watching now, Tottenham Hotspur chairman Daniel Levy has given himself, or reportedly given himself, a £500,000 pay rise a year. So Jude, I want to know your thoughts on this. And is this clever from Daniel Levy, or is he just not helping himself?
I just don't think he's helping himself. None of us really. No Spurs fans want him at the club, and the fact that he's given himself more money than investing into the club to buy, players or invest in facilities. We don't really need to invest in facilities, but players or just backing the manager essentially. It's just a bit. I don't think he's helping himself, and yeah.
Ben, do you agree?
think he's being extremely selfish.
Fair enough, Ben.
Yeah, it's very poor timing, is what I would say, to get it out publicly. I feel it's very convenient. It came up publicly after we've won a couple games. Because I feel if he put that out a couple of weeks ago, people would have gone absolutely nuts online. But yeah, it's a very weird time, especially maybe it's with an idea that the club is selling in the next couple of years and he wants a bit more money before they sell. That's probably wishful thinking, but you never know. But yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Do I think at the end of the day we've won one trophy in however long it is.
22
years.
We've had 15 managers now. We've had 15 managers now, and it's we've not really progressed since we got into the Champions League with Harry Redknapp. So yeah,
thank
make
you.
that what you will.
Sorry to interrupt. Off topic. Earlier on we were talking about the Puskas Award.
Yeah.
It's just come back. The Polish amputee, the overhead kick. He won it.
Oh, fantastic!
Really?
So, yeah, there you go, everyone. Richarlison has won that. So fantastic. Very happy for him. That's breaking news if you're watching.
Richarlison came second.
No, second, Harry. Richarlison came
fantastic.
Second.
Thank you. Done well then. Well done to him. So there you go. That's news if you're listening, or if you're watching after. You still might not know. For me, on this from Daniel Levy, I mean, I dislike Levy, but he really isn't helping himself doing that. And it's funny, you mentioned, Ben, how this has come out after you won a couple of games, but it's always when we lose a couple of games that the talks of the potential takeover of new ownership comes out. Silent now. Yep. We've won a couple of games. I promise you it's planned. They're clever. I think Levy's a clever person, a clever businessman. He knows what he's doing. Spread rumors around. When we're losing that the potential takeover, because then fans, they stop the Levy and Cup thing because the chance have completely gone in the stadium, distracted by the team doing well, distracted by the talks of new ownership. I just think generally distracted by lots of different things. And when we all suddenly win, he says keep that quiet and let the pay rise out. I just think it's so clever. I don't think he's helping himself by this. And the fact that the club made a loss last year as well, just for me, doesn't make any sense. But moving on to the final bit of the show, which is preview of Sheffield United. Starting with you, Jude, I want to know your thoughts going into the Sheffield United game on Wednesday, the quarterfinal of the FA Cup.
I think there will be a lot of rotation, squad rotation, as Ben said earlier. the same players can't play every game, so I think there'll be a lot of rotation. I think Tanganga will start. I think Dyer will start, and I think Davis start in a 3. I think Perisic will start because he hasn't played for a while, and I think Porro will play. I think Sarr and Skip in the midfield, and then I think up front it'll be Son, Richarlison, and Kane. I think he'll rest Cooley for the weekend, and I think it'll be a tough game away from home against Sheffield United because it's not the easiest place to go, especially in the FA Cup. It's a lot to play for. Is this the quarterfinals?
I think so.
I think it's one before. I
Yeah.
think it's the round before.
Fifth round.
I think it's the round before
So wait,
the quarterfinals.
is it? I'm not. So there's a spot in the quarterfinals to play for. They're just if they win this, there's one game into Wembley, and that would be massive for Sheffield United. So I think it'll be the atmosphere will be great at Bramall Lane, and I think it'll be a tough night. But I do think we'll manage to win. I think we'll win 2-0, but I think it'll be 0-0 at half time, and then we'll score, and then they'll have to come out the blocks and start pressing. We'll hit them on the counter attack with a goal. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a hard game.
Thank you. And Jude, quickly before I move on to Ben, how seriously must Tottenham take the FA Cup, considering they haven't won a major trophy since 2008?
Massively, it's our best chance of winning a trophy. There's only what, City, United, and who else? There's one other team that are semi decent left in it. Can't remember who.
Brighton?
There's
Brighton, you got
yeah, City, United, and Brighton. That's 4 teams. Sorry, 3 teams. 4 teams including us. We know we can beat City. We know we can beat Brighton, and it's just the test. We don't know if we can beat United. We lost to them away, but we never win at Old Trafford, so that's a bit, So I think this is our best chance to win a trophy for a long time. We've got, I'm not going to say an easy tie, but we've got a good tie against Sheffield United, and then hopefully we can hope for a home leg in the quarterfinals, and then Wembley if we beat that. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And Ben, now moving on to you. So basically the same questions I've asked Jude. What are your thoughts going into the game, and how seriously must Tottenham take this? As I said, haven't won a trophy since 2008. One trophy in 22 years, one major trophy, should I say, in 22 years. Possibility of placing in the quarterfinals. How serious must we take it? And your thoughts going into the game?
I agree with Jude. We should take it so seriously. I like exactly what he said about how the only real teams that we obviously you can never be sure of beating anybody, but the teams that we shouldn't beat, you could say on paper, only teams left are Man U and Man City, although we always seem to beat City. So you could argue on paper this is the best chance we've had in a long time to win it. My hope is they'll draw each other in the next round, and one of them will be knocked out.
Hopefully.
Is what I hope is going to happen. But obviously, at the end of the day, you've got to focus on yourselves. And at the end of the day, you're going to face a big team at some point anyway. So whenever it happens, I just pray we get to the semi-final and get a day out at Wembley, because it's been such a long time since. Obviously, we had the Carabao Cup final, but that was only like 10,000 people in the stadium because of the restrictions. I just want to have another day out at Wembley, because it's such a good experience having a day. I don't know if you've been before, Jude, but I went twice. I went twice when we were playing our home games, and then was the mascot for the cup semi-final against United a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
and that was
the first season that we moved into Wembley. I had a season ticket until last year. So yeah, I went every game. It is, but it's very different to when the entire stadium is you, but when it's half, it's completely different because you're with all Spurs fans, and it's a lot different, and it's a much more it's a much greater atmosphere because you're battling against the same amount of fans. The noise, and it's just
Yeah. It was great to see it. Obviously, it's not our game. It was great to see Wembley like that again on Sunday for the Carabao Cup final. And I just pray we get to see Spurs have at least the semi-final there.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be nice. Thank you, both of you. And both made some great points and both well said. I respect rotation. I think is important, to rotate, especially the players who play a lot. But I don't want to see us going too weak, almost like a second team. I think we've got to realise how important it is. And Sheffield United, we're talking the team top of the Championship, the team that's going to be in the Premier League, whether you like it or not, next season. But to wrap up today's show, I'm going to go on to predicted score for the Sheffield United game. I'm going to start with you, Jude. Haven't given you much time to think, but feel free to think now. What do you think the score's going to be Wednesday?
I think it'll be 2-0. As I said, I think we'll score. It'll be 0-0 at half time. We'll score a goal through. I'm going to say Kane, and then they will obviously have to come out and try and start playing, and then we'll hit them on the break with Richarlison. And it'll be 2-0.
Thank you, Ben. Predicted score.
I'm not going to be boring and copy what G. I'm going to say 3-1 instead, just because of potentially the weakened back line. But I have a feeling it's going to be quite close, and we might just wrap it up at the end.
Yeah,
fair enough. We've got 2-0 and 3-1. If I'm correct, I'm going to go with 2-1 Spurs. So we're all going to go for victories. Yeah, and we will see who gets that right. We'll come back to that. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully one of us can get it right. It's been a while since I got it right, to be fair. So yeah, good luck to both of you. And that is it, everyone, for today's. Yeah, that's it, everyone, for today's show. That is episode 4. Thank you both for coming on. It's been a pleasure. 2 fantastic guests. Firstly, Ben, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is Spurs the Best on Twitter, and basically mainly ranting about Spurs or replying to Harry.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have on again. Ben, thank you very much. You're always welcome. Jude, where can people find you on social media?
On TikTok, what it says, Jude_7, and on Instagram, I'm Jude_2. So yeah.
Thank you very much. That is where you can find Ben and Jude, who've been 2 fantastic guests today. If you want to follow me, handles down there, Harry Scarf 22. Then we'll know I like to wind fans up, especially on Twitter. Quite active as well on TikTok, but most importantly, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Scarfy Spurs Talk. If you like it, leave a like. That would be much appreciated. And if you prefer to listen, you've now got that option afterwards to listen on Spotify. And a massive shout out to Security VPN, which is a new partnership. Reminder: using the code Scarfy at checkout can get 25% off your first month. So that is it for today's show. As we always say on this channel, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.